Hey everybody, it's Mike and Denise. I'm a lifestyle nutritionist with Forever Young Nutrition Coaching. We're doing our review and comment on the plant-based news, and I wanted to do a talk or a discussion or a reading or whatever we're going to do here today, all of three, about onions and garlic, because there's a lot of controversy about that. I actually just did an interview on Chuck Carroll's Exam Room podcast on PCRM, where Chuck actually mentioned, we were talking about the book I have, Live to 150, and whoa, is it wet in here? Hold on. We gotta go through this tunnel. I have my book, Live to 150. It's free at liveto150.org. That's liveto150.org. And Chuck, I was talking to Chuck, and telling him how 80% of it is the diet. It has to be super specific, and he's saying that he can't eat garlic, and he's all messed up, or something like that. And I was like, no, you actually are probably just very sensitive, or more sensitive than maybe most people, but it's probably for a good thing. And I said, have you ever heard of the human hygienic diet? And he said, no, he'd never even heard of it. So I said, well, you should look it up. And so it's like the human hygienic diet talks about this, natural hygiene talks about this, and also the other thing is Ayurveda talks about this. I think it's that's a branch of like naturopathy or something like that. But these are things that are not in the mainstream. Most people don't even talk about it. Like I said, Chuck's with PCRM, they're kind of experts in this field. They didn't even know about it, or at least they don't talk about it on a regular basis. But that's understood, and that's why I want to make a video here where we're talking about it. So I went online, and I was going to find some articles on this. Everything we talk about, we try to talk about that's in the current year, which is 2022. I really couldn't find anything. Or I found some stuff saying this is all wrong, which I don't think it's all wrong. I think that people just don't understand it yet. Sorry, I'm going up a hill. And what I did find was an article from 2018 or something in Popular Science?
17.
Okay, in Popular Science. But I felt like it was, from what I found, it's the most appropriate thing to read. So sorry for the long introduction. We can start reading it now. Go ahead.
For the ancient Egyptians, eating an onion...
What's the title? We have to do the title. Sorry.
Why I can never eat organic onions or garlic again.
Organic?
Why I can never eat onions or garlic again.
Oh, okay. All right, okay. It's like now that was a problem with organic food.
For the ancient Egyptians, eating an onion was like biting into a piece of eternity. So enamored were they of the vegetable's spherical shape and concentric circles, supposedly representative of unending time. For me, the experience of biting an onion is slightly less transcendent.
Sorry, we're hearing some people over there playing tennis or something. I don't know what they're doing.
I have an intolerance that renders me unable to eat alien, is that what you call it? Alien plants.
Alien plants. It's a type of plants that basically grow in the ground as roots. I don't know if it's just onions and garlic, but it also includes, or at least is in the family of plants like potatoes and other things. Like, I don't know, radishes, beets, right? They all grow underground. You got to kind of kill the entire plant to eat them, right? The plant's gone.
This says, I have an intolerance that renders me unable to eat alien plants. The family of food that includes onions, garlic, spring onions, leeks, chives, and scallions without severe gastrointestinal problems.
Okay, so it doesn't include all the things I mentioned,
No.
but it's the same type of plant. It's like a lighter, greener version, I guess, of that type of plant, right? But the idea is the same, is that you kill the entire plant when you harvest that. The plant does not give up this part of it. Like, I know we talked about Frutarianism recently, and one of the ideas behind Frutarianism is that the plant is giving you this thing freely. It's not harming the plant, and in fact, a lot of ways when you harvest them, they'll grow more, and they'll actually produce more of it for you, and the plant will continue to thrive.
Carrots and parsnips are another example of something grown underground. You have to kill it when you extract it. It doesn't just give fruit. It gives fruit dust.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have never thought about this in context of their diet before. I'm just bringing it up because the article doesn't even mention it either. But that's kind of the school of thought that goes along with a lot of this stuff.
Though no good data exists on the number of people with this peculiar problem, I've come to learn that I'm definitely not alone. Someone commented that she said, when I told my new doctor about my onion allergy, she looked more depressed than me.
Depressed?
Yeah. So when I learned of my unfortunate falling out with the allium family, I'd been sick for almost a year with no explanation. At the risk of oversharing, let's just say I was experiencing the first 4 of Pepto-Bismol's 5 jingle symptoms.
And what are those?
I don't know the jingle, but I know they mentioned about diarrhea, heartburn, that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, so serious stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just minor things.
Yeah. A few nights a week, I'd go out to dinner with my family or high school friends. I'd order a sizzling cast iron skillet of fajitas as my favorite Mexican restaurant. At my favorite Mexican restaurant, my eyes as wide as saucers, only to find my stomach bloating up like a blimp, think the Hindenburg, before the meal was over.
Blowing up stomach.
The same troubling sensation also came with my every slice of pizza. Turns out there's garlic in most sauces.
Yep, I was adding garlic and onions to the pasta sauce I was making for the long time. I don't do that anymore.
After the pizza, she says, bite of steak, most is seasoned with mixed spices, including garlic, or a lick of roast chicken over potatoes and onions. You see the problem here, I presume. Everything is seasoned with garlic.
Yes, yeah, and also it's not plant-based. That's another problem. It's not a plant-based article. Right. You hear our friends back there yelling. We're out here getting our daily aerobic exercise, getting some kind of vitamin D here too, because there is some sunlight, even though it's like an October hazy day. But anyway, yeah, keep going. They're talking about the food. And like I said, it's not a plant-based article, but this is just one facet of eating plant-based.
After talking to multiple doctors, taking numerous blood tests, rejecting my mother's very kind suggestion that I get a colon biopsy, and finding myself with 0 clues about my condition, a dietitian recommended trying an elimination diet using a handy chart called the food map, which stands for the laughably inscrutable fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and Polo's diet.
Yeah, and it's a way just basically of a process of elimination to determine food allergy, food sensitivity, figuring out what's wrong with you basically by process of elimination.
Yeah. A list of foods that contain organic compounds known to cause bowel problems. Food map is a sprawling catalog of potential irritants, from onions and apricots to couscous and chorizo. The idea isn't to cut all of the food map foods out of your diet, but to eliminate the items you
just
think
the ones that are problem
are most likely bothering you, to see if you feel better, and then add the potential problem food back in to see if it makes you feel miserable again. And in order to isolate which thing is truly needling you, you have to do it one ingredient at a time. As a long-time lactose intolerant, I know my life sucks. I was already avoiding the food map groups characterized by its delicious cheeses and creamy desserts.
It sounds like this person needs to be fully plant-based, you know, and a lot of stuff we talk about in the book in chapter 42 on the food. Just read it.
Yeah. I decided to remove fructooligosaccharides, or fructans, from the outset because of my elimination experiment. Fructan, which differs dramatically from fructose, is a big molecule of simple sugars found in high concentrations.
You gotta talk louder here. We're coming
in a range of plants, including many alliums.
Okay, so onions and garlic have this fructan thing in them.
No one's really clear on how fructan intolerance works, but evidence suggests that instead of being digested in my gut, fructans are fermented, causing all of that painful gas, bloating, and acid reflux. I won't be so mad about all of this if I could turn my stomach problems into $1 million craft brewery, but alas. Even though I had a lead, the process of confirming the source of my ills was still laborious.
Okay, well, let me also mention on this stuff that these alliums act like fermented foods. So like the fermented foods is a whole other subject that we could get into, and my own thinking on fermented foods is that fermented foods in general are not good for the human body. I generally talk about things in two categories, either health optimizing or health destroying or health compromising, and it's usually one or the other. And I think that anything fermented or something that's fermented in your body, which is the same thing as eating a fermented food, is really health destroying and it's health compromising.
So she had to remove onions, wait a few days, try onions, wait for a response, cry. Remove garlic, wait a few days, try garlic, wait for a response, prove once and for all you're definitely a vampire, cry. Each new revelation sent me spiraling. I was sad and I was hungry, but for the first time in a year, at least I knew what was wrong with me and could finally start moving forward.
Okay.
Sort of.
Yeah, and this is all because of conditioning, social conditioning, the way people were brought up, the way people are brought up. We all assume that we're being taught correctly, and I talk about this in my book too, Live to 150, that it's not necessarily the case. In fact, it's definitely not the case for almost everybody out there. They're done with the best of intentions, but the reality is that people don't really even understand what's best for health optimization. They don't understand what foods are not recognized by the body. They're not even recognized as food, and people get sick, and this is just another example of that.
It's not surprising that this revelation came to me only with the help of Food Map. Garlic is omnipresent. In 2014, the world produced 50 billion pounds of the stuff, along with about 6.2 billion pounds of onions. But it's almost invisible.
Right, but it's not invisible to the economy though, right? And I talk about this in the book too, how the status quo doesn't like to change. Mm-hmm. If you want to know why you haven't heard about this, the onion and garlic industry, which is obviously massive from what they're saying here. This is popular science talking about this. And they're right. It's in almost everything you get out there.
Yeah. There's like one garlic manufacturer that rules, that dominates the planet.
Yeah, you know they don't want I'm probably going to get a knock on the door from them after releasing this video. You know they don't want you to find out about this, okay? Let's just be honest. Let's be straightforward as we possibly can. And this is why you don't know, because it would severely damage their industry.
Very few people, even doctors specializing in allergies, are trained to recognize alum issues. And when I got sick from something like pizza, I thought it was the milk or the gluten or even the tomatoes, anything but the trace amounts of garlic in the crust or sauce. Plus, most people, try not to fall down while reading, who are allergic to garlic, allergic to alums, aren't actually allergic at all. They're intolerant.
Sensitive.
With a true allergy, you're vulnerable to anaphylactic responses, like you see with
like near death, right?
Peanut allergies.
Yeah. But even so, your body, it's the same idea. Your body's telling you you're doing something wrong. Okay? Yeah. If a lot of people have these sensitivities, I'll just call them sensitivities, all right? You got to think twice. Is this really food or not?
Or shellfish allergies, where a small miscalculation can result in your throat closing up. With an intolerance, you just feel terrible, but you keep breathing. Food allergies ultimately boil down to the actions of immunoglobulin E antibodies, a normal part of the body's immune system response. IgEs plug offending allergens into an immune system receptor site that triggers the rapid production of histamines, which fight off attacks. Histamines have many important combat roles, but when they go overboard, they can shut the body down. That's why Benadryl is an antihistamine. It tries to stop histamines from going overboard and producing rashes or shallow breathing. The origin of food allergies is poorly understood. From an evolutionary perspective, they're pretty disadvantageous. It's hard to populate the planet with numerous healthy offspring if you might die at any moment from an accidental encounter with an almond. That's why many researchers think they're relatively a new phenomenon.
Well, it's hard to say. I think that way in the past we used to eat real food. Food is grown. I think that was a large part of the human diet, you know? But most of the stuff we eat, I talk about this in the book, is this food-like products. The body doesn't recognize it as food. This may be another example. These alliums of stuff that some bodies might recognize it as food, but other bodies aren't, because it's not. It doesn't mean that the people that are okay with it should be eating it.
One of the leading theories of allergies is called the Hygiene Hypothesis.
There you go.
This theory suggests that allergies come from the developed world being a little too clean these days. As a result, our bodies respond with the IgE just not to real threats, but to anything new or mildly irritating. Kids who grow up on farms have a lot of siblings, have lower rates of allergies, lending weight to the theory that their immune systems are calmer because they dealt with a lot of dirty things early on. Other potential explanations for the rise in allergies in wealthy nations include too much folate in childhood and too little vitamin D throughout life.
So you're not spending enough time outside, you're eating supplements for your nutrition, and you're eating food-like products. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, totally. While nothing is conclusive about the origins of allergies, food intolerance, like what I experienced with alliums, is even more poorly understood. That's in part because they, thankfully, aren't life-threatening, lending their study a little less urgency. But it's also because they're so poorly defined. An intolerance is, generally speaking, any troubling response to a particular class of foods that doesn't trigger histamines, an IgE response, or that telltale respiratory distress. What's more, unlike allergens, which have a shared underlying mechanism, intolerances vary drastically from person to person.
Okay, I've talked about this in the book too, how basically if something doesn't kill you very fast, then no one cares about it.
Yeah.
And this is just another example of that. Well, this doesn't kill you as fast as the food allergies, so there hasn't really been any information on this stuff.
I met Taylor Keefe for the first time recently at a diner on Manhattan's Upper West Side. Its sprawling menu, all-day breakfast, the most important and on average the least garlicky meal of the day, was sure to accommodate us. But which was important because Keefe has an aluminum intolerance too.
Aluminum?
Oh, sorry. Alum.
Allium, right?
Allium
Is it allium? A-L-L-I-U-M?
Yes.
Allium?
Allium intolerance. We're a rare breed, he told me. He was the first person I'd met with a garlic allergy. I was his second. Over his BLT and my eggs and ham, Keith and I traded allium horror stories. His experiences differed from mine in many ways, but the stomach pain, frustration over missed culinary opportunities, and
Frustration. That's a lot of mental stuff here. Conditioning, like I talked about.
Yeah. And insistence we wouldn't be isolated by our quirky guts remained constant. Keefe's initial symptoms were concentrated in his joints. He remembers a funky sensation in his elbows following many a meal in high school. For years, he attributed it to a dozen different things other than allium. I used to drink so much Mountain Dew back then,
oh my gosh.
He said with a laugh.
Yeah.
But one day, while working as a cook in a steakhouse, he took a bite out of a raw onion. Within 5 minutes, I felt immediately gross, he said. I tasted onions for 2 days after. For the first time, the relationship between an ingredient and an adverse reaction seemed clear. It just kind of slowly built. It got worse, progressively worse, he says. Onions give him the same Pepto-Bismol symptoms I get, and garlic all but poisons him. He told me he'll be up all night after an accidental allium attack, vomiting, shaking, even hallucinating.
Jeez.
Wow. What's worse is that Keith and I both know there's no fix. And there likely never will be.
Because it may not be food to your body.
Right.
This is what we need to keep in mind. They're not even suggesting that as a possibility, which is strange from a scientific publication. But anyway, that just tells you where we are as a culture.
In 2010, Eric Bloch appeared on NPR's Science Friday to discuss his book, Garlic and Other Alliums, The Lore and the Science, and his 40 years of allium research. The listener called in to ask if there was anything he could do to fix his allergy. Bloch had some sobering advice. Although the dream of a lactate-style pill to bust up allium is a nice one, it's unlikely, as Bloch made it sound.
Yeah.
Lactose intolerance is
Everyone
a
wants a
result
pill.
of not having enough lactase enzymes. Lactate pills provide artificial lactase that eats up the lactose in milk.
See, this is where science is, right? Don't address the root cause. This give you a pill. So you can keep drinking your lactose, and everything else, but you shouldn't, because that's not food either. That's milk from another species of animal. It's not food for humans.
The lactate pills eat up the lactase in milk, cheese, and other dairy products. Just like a person without lactose intolerance who is producing enough lactase naturally would. But allium intolerances don't work the same way.
Another victim of the standard American diet.
Not to our knowledge. So for now, there's no artificial allium eating enzyme to send in as a reinforcement. The best solution Keith has come up with to carry gas X around for some emergencies. That may minimize the effects of ingesting allium, but it certainly doesn't stop the whole nefarious reaction in its tracks. So Keith and I, and anyone else with this unusual problem, are tasked with avoiding garlic and onions altogether.
Yeah, that's what it should be. That's what it should be.
And that's no easy task.
Well, not if you want to be like a real American, right? It's like now you're being disloyal to your country. You can't eat onions and garlic.
Humans have been eating allium plants for thousands of years. Trace residents found lingering on the mummified face of Pharaoh Ramses IV suggests that when he died in 1160 BC, those who entombed him placed wild onions in his eyes.
Okay, well, just because humans have been doing it for a while doesn't mean it's okay or even correct. We know that with hunting. We know that with animal products. When did someone tell everyone to start harvesting milk from another species to a human? Some human thought about that, but it's not okay. Just because we've done it doesn't mean it's okay. I'm surprised a scientific publication is insinuating that just because we've done it, it's okay.
In the northern hemisphere, the natural habitat of these plants, ancient peoples dug up these wild vegetables wherever they happened to grow. But 7,000 years ago, humans began to cultivate alliums.
I think we're gonna have to pause this for a second. They're coming down to get this victim of the standard American diet right down here. They're going. There's no ambulance, there's just fire trucks. Maybe there's an actual fire, I don't know. Okay, all right, well, we can keep going.
When we eat alliums today, we're gobbling up the descendants of the plants our forefarmers cultivated.
Right, as true with all plants and all human life, all life for that matter is all related genetically, right?
Yes, these days they're about as ubiquitous as an ingredient can be. In sub-Saharan Africa, where garlic does not naturally grow, it is farmed and used widely in cooking. Japanese cooks have long incorporated these ingredients in their food, but recently some have put garlic in ice cream and people actually bought it.
Oh my gosh.
In the United States, April 19th is National Garlic Day, and as a favorite condiment of the Russian cosmonauts, fresh garlic has even been to space, though it's not yet growing in any zero-gravity farms. In fact, the only culture that totally eschews onions are Jains, followers of an ancient Indian
Well, they may
religion.
be right. They're the only people that might be right.
Yeah.
Maybe they're the only people that thought this thing through. How about that?
Yeah, Jains keep a number of unique cultural practices. the core tenet of which is nonviolence. But that doesn't mean no fighting or no meat eating, though it does mean both of these things. And yeah, they don't fight and they don't eat meat.
Right, but also if it's nonviolence, like I talked about earlier, you're killing the plant. When
Yeah.
you take these alliums, in order to get them, you must kill the plant in its entirety. So that's a violent thing compared to another type of a plant that you could take that will freely provide even more. Actually, if you take some of their fruit or whatever off of their vegetables, it'll provide even more, right?
Yes. So it means no root vegetables. Jains believe that when you pull a root vegetable like a potato or an onion or garlic from the earth, you injure it.
Yeah.
Because tubers and bulbs can continue to sprout, more tubers and bulbs, if you leave them be, they're considered to be alive. So pulling one out of the ground to eat it is almost like killing and eating an animal. My former boss was a Jain, so I heard about this before. While I haven't gone to a Jain restaurant yet, I imagine it would feel pretty freeing in order to order any old item from the menu. Most menus are minefields for me to carefully navigate in search of mediocre, unseasoned dishes. Worse.
Wait, unseasoned? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. This obviously is not a plant-based person. You can have so many other plants you can use to season your dishes with, okay? Come on.
Yeah. Worse, I sometimes have a dish that's not just good, it's too good to be true. Sometimes a delicious meal comes back to bite me.
Yeah, onions and garlic.
A few hours out the restaurant door, my body starts to fight the garlic oils or onion bits that infiltrated my meal.
I get the feeling that onions and garlic may be like into society like added salt is.
Yeah.
Everyone expects that flavor, right? But we've been trained all wrong. It's too bad.
This is slippery.
Whoa.
There are obviously far worse diseases and even allergies to suffer from. I consider myself lucky, even as I desperately search for a New York pizza joint that won't make my stomach blow up like a balloon.
Oh my gosh.
And it's true that, as a fun fact about me, icebreaker, the weirdness of an allium allergy is pretty hard to beat. But on days when I get a little green over my boyfriend's side of salsa, or envious of friends who order lasagna at an Italian restaurant while I'm left with a dressing-free salad, I do wish the human body could be just a little less mysterious.
Is that it?
That's it.
It's a long one, but an important one, I think. Let me know your comments below. Like I said, I get the feeling that, just like, I don't know, when I was growing up, or when I was born in 1970, I don't think people talked about added sodium so much in the food. I have a feeling that onions and garlic may end up turning out the same way, or any of these alliums.
Yeah, but she said this was a really rare intolerance. She's
Well,
the only one she knew, besides that one other guy.
Well, did people have this in the past? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that are changing with the way people are raised and born. I don't know.
Yeah, she just mentioned that kids aren't exposed to dirt on the farm like
Yeah.
they used to be, and now they have these allergies because of the under.
Or it could have been that we just were so sick as a people, or maybe we just didn't care. We had so many other things to go. We weren't hypersensitive like we are now about everything, and maybe we just didn't notice it. I don't know. All right.
Yeah.
Some noise coming up here. We're gonna end the video. Please comment with any of your thoughts, any other articles we can talk about that deal on the subject that you know about. Of course, read my book, Live to 150 at liveto150.org. It's totally free. And please like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye. One final thought. It's not just that you're a freak if you can't eat onions and garlic. It's kind of like I say in the book too, with a lot of things. Maybe you're just hypersensitive like me, and you're like a canary in the coal mine type of thing, and you just push away and can't handle things that you shouldn't be handling. And maybe everybody else is going to have, after we connect the dots, all these other health issues traced back to eating onions and garlic.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, maybe they cause some other health.
Because you can eat sodium, added salt, no problem, right? But if you ate all you wanted, you would end up having health issues. You would. That would be the result of eating that.
High blood pressure.
Yeah, just because you didn't feel it right away. I feel it right away. So I just back off. I back away. There's that difference there in the sensitivity. And so these people may be doing a very, very good thing. It's too bad that they wrote this. The tone of that article was that they were not doing a good thing and that they were somehow screwed out of living. That's the feeling I get.
Yeah, that was the tone. It was sad.
All right, bye.